What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Head First Project, where it is all about attacking life head first. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Nate Hoffman. Today is November 23rd. It is Monday Massacre. This is where we talk about lifestyle, motivation, self-development, discipline, education, and anything related to getting more out of life. Today's topic is working for your knowledge. Let me start by asking you a simple question. Do you value your time? I'm sure every single person listening to this is going to say, yeah, of course I do. Why wouldn't I value my time? But I feel like most people don't actually value their time the way that they think they do, and I'm going to talk about why I feel that way. When you go to work or when you're looking for jobs or trying to get into a new interest or career field, what are you looking for? Are you looking for the next thing just to get by, to make some money and sustain yourself so you just have a job, or are you looking for more out of it? Everyone needs a job so that they can work and earn money, but why did you pick what you're doing as your choice of how to spend your time? Did you pick it because it pays well? Did you pick it because you have experience in it, because you love that field? Or is it something that you wanted to learn about and pursue a lifelong career in it? Or did you pick it because it was easy, it was the first thing that came across the table, or your phone, someone reached out to you? Did you pick it because you know the boss, you know you have an in with the company and you thought it was going to be an easy time, or they're going to hook you up? What did you do to make that decision that was the right choice for you at the time? Think about everything that you did and everything that went into picking that. If you need to pause this and maybe write down a list of these things that got you to that point, go ahead and do so. And then I want you to take what you're doing with your time in your job. Think about, when you go to work, are you developing yourself? Are you getting better at something? Are you learning? Or are you just going for 8 hours a day, or however long you work a day? If it's part-time, a little bit less, or if you work long hours, more than that. If it is benefiting you, what are you getting out of that? Are you challenging yourself? If you're not, why aren't you challenging yourself? If you're not developing, if you're not learning, why is this happening? What are you getting out of that job besides a paycheck? Do you even care about what you're doing? Are you interested in it at all? If you're working towards a higher goal, towards your dream job or a goal in your field, something like that, and you're at a position that you have to do beforehand, that's all right. Sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you got to do the crap work to work your way up. You have to get the experience in the lower end before you can get to the high end. You have to get your foot in the door, you have to build connections, you got to put the time in and do the work before you can get there. If you want to be a doctor one day or work in the medical field, you can't just decide, I'm going to do this, and then go do it. You have to get that experience and the knowledge beforehand to do it. Say you want to work in a contracting business. If you want to own a contracting business and work on houses and do that sort of stuff, you can't just one day decide that you're going to wake up, become a contractor, and build a house. You have to learn how to do it. You have to get the experience to do it, the connections. You have to put in the work to understand what you're doing. You can't just jump into these big, huge levels of things without putting in the background. You see a lot of people doing this now because everyone wants to be a manager, everyone wants to be the boss, everyone wants to be in charge, but you can't just jump into a management position if you don't understand what you're managing or what you're controlling. You have to understand the lower levels of it before you do it. Think about all that stuff and look at what you're doing right now and where you want to be. If you can't develop a clear-cut line in between where you're at and your end goal with a line to follow, you might be in the wrong spot. You might just be wasting your time and working for absolutely nothing. A lot of the time, the road in between here and there is not going to be a perfectly straight, clear-cut line. Ideally, it will be. Sometimes you need to move a little bit laterally, you need to jump around, you need to go in different ways. But if you don't have a relatively clear avenue to get there, what are you doing? There may be some exceptions to this. If you're in school or getting ready for your training or saving up the money to do that, that's fine. You got to do what you have to do to be able to put yourself in the position to build those blocks to get where you want. But if you're doing something that is completely unrelated and not benefiting you anyway towards reaching that goal, I don't think you're spending your time efficiently. Even once you do all this training, whether you go to trade school or college or do an internship or shadow someone, a lot of the time, once you are done with this sort of program, even people that have done all this footwork don't immediately dive into the job they want with their degree or their training right away and start working exactly where they want to. As I talked about a little bit in my intro podcast, I finally just got a job in my degree field, and I graduated college almost 2 years ago. I graduated Slippery Rock in 2019 in the spring, and I finally, as of November of 2020, got an offer to use my degree and work in what I would call a real job, a good job, using that to get to where I want to be. So even if you do all that background work, get the experience and get your foot in the door and make connections and stuff, sometimes life just happens. There's going to be things that don't go according to plan, that switch stuff around, but you need to try and stay on that path that you're doing what you need to do to build that line to where you want to be. Because that happened to me. I went to school for 4 years at Slippery Rock for physical activity and fitness management, and I wanted to work in an exercise field, and I did all my classes. I did that research study. I got extra experience that wasn't required for my degree, but I decided that I wanted to get that extra experience to set myself apart from everyone else. That way I would have a better chance at getting a job and doing what I wanted to do. But it just didn't work out like that. The way it happened for me is I did all that during college. And then once I graduated college, it was getting towards the end of the semester I believe it was around late April, early May or so. I got in contact with someone that I had known from doing previous stuff, and they owned a gym in Pittsburgh. I'm not going to talk about specifically the gym or the person, anything like that. That doesn't matter. We got in touch, and they decided that they wanted to talk to me since I was getting close to graduating school, and they knew some of the things that I was involved with, and they wanted to talk to me about maybe working there. So I went down and I interviewed with them. I had talked to some of their staff, and we talked about everything that I had done, the goals that I have, the things I wanted to do. And we decided that the things that we had planned in their business and in my personal life and my career that I wanted to go towards, it was going to be a good fit. And the way we planned everything out, I was going to be able to run a program there. I was going to be able to introduce some of the tactical training experience that I had with the community around the gym, and everything was going to work out beneficially for both of us on each end. Now, the way that things actually went is I started working there, and I was in charge of a program like I was supposed to be. And for those of you that don't know, whenever you get into the exercise field, you need to have clients. Some places will automatically assign you clients. If you get with a big box place like a large fitness organization, they have so many people going to them that they have clients that they need to assign to the workers. So if you come in as a personal trainer or a strength and conditioning coach, something like that, you're going to have clients thrown at you. But a lot of the time that doesn't happen, especially with a smaller operation. So it's going to be up to you to seek out these clients. It's like sales. You have to sell yourself to these people, tell them why they should go with you, why they should go with your program, and then they'll end up working with you, hopefully. So I knew that a large portion of the work that I was ideally going to get was going to be on me. But what I was told from the beginning is that with this program and everything, I was going to get a certain amount of hours in a week to work there. I ended up working there for a little bit less than a month, and I was, like I said, in charge of that program and able to do things, but it wasn't what I was told. I was led to believe that I was going to get more hours with this program and everything. I was quoted something, and it just didn't work out that way. It got to the point that I wasn't being able to sustain myself because I still had to keep up with my lease on Slippery Rock because it was a year-long lease. So it went on for a couple months after I graduated, and then after I moved to Pittsburgh, I had that lease to deal with, so I was living close to work. So I was paying for 2 leases at the same time, and I was only getting a couple hours a week. There was just no way I could do it. I thought I had made that connection and got to the point where I needed to be, and it just didn't work out that way. I decided that I needed to step away from that and go in a direction that allowed me to support myself. I ended up working at the casino in Pittsburgh as a security guard for a little bit. I just needed to be able to pay my bills and keep myself fed and alive, and I just wasn't able to do it in that position. I worked at the casino for a while. It wasn't at all what I wanted to do. I never had any intentions on getting in there, but it kept me being able to pay stuff for a little bit, and I just didn't like it. So then I ended up going back to labor jobs for a little bit. I worked in concrete in Pittsburgh. I did that for a little bit. I enjoyed it. I had a good experience there, but also it just was not at all what I wanted to be doing with myself. Around that time, I was informed by my unit that I was put on the deployment list, and that winter we were going to leave for at least a 10-month deployment to Afghanistan. So I had to change around all my priorities, everything I had planned, all the jobs I applied for, everything I was trying to prospect for myself. It all changed overnight. Now, that didn't end up working out the way that any of us thought it was going to. We were supposed to go to Afghanistan for like 10 months. We ended up making it all the way to Kuwait. We were there for like 2 days, and then we got informed that the U.S. government signed a peace deal with Afghanistan, so things were going to be slowing down a lot. The coronavirus got real bad. They were halting a lot of troop movements. Everyone here in the States, no one was allowed to travel anywhere. It was a mess. So once again, it changed everything that I thought was going to happen in my life, and I started needing to plan everything all over again. I started applying for jobs back here because I was coming home months before I planned on doing it. I started organizing my life again and trying to get on the right track to get into that career field that I was originally trying to get to from the second I graduated. When stuff like this happens and goes wrong, you can't let that discourage you. You can't let that be the stopping point to all your progression. You put in all that time going to school, making these connections, working places, getting the job experience. If something goes wrong, even if it's on a big scale like that happens for months or years at a time, don't let that stop you from focusing on that end goal to where you want to be. That end goal at the finish line is not going to be handed to you. You still have to keep persistent, keep on top of that, and develop everything in your life. Whenever that opportunity actually arises and presents itself to you, you're going to be prepared to take that chance and take that opportunity and do your absolute best at it. If you want another really good example of how life can switch around and how all this sort of stuff can happen, but it will not slow your progression down and staying focused to that end goal, look up the CFN podcast. CFN podcast is run by CJ Campbell. He's one of my close friends from college. He's one of the people that put in the work every single day to get where he wanted to. He has a really good story with really good information on how his journey played out to get where he wanted to be now. He recently just accepted a position at O2 Fitness in South Carolina doing exactly what he wanted to do, and he loves it. It was a long road. It was a lot of hard work, but he got up and put in the work every single day to get himself ready for that position. And finally, it lined up, he got it, and it's going great. But anyways, if you're in between stuff, there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes life will just hit you, and you gotta roll with it. Use your time before you get into that position with your degree or your training or whatever to figure out what you want to do, where you want to do it, and how it's all going to play out for you. You have to use all this information and plan it out so that you can make wise, informed decisions whenever this sort of stuff happens so you can keep yourself on track without exploding. So take a look at those lists you made of what you're doing with your time now, what you're doing at work, and why you're doing it at that job. What made you pick that job? If you're doing that job solely for the fact of making money and getting that paycheck, absolutely nothing else, you're wasting your time. You're cheating yourself. You're saying that my time is only worth the exact dollar amount of my paycheck and nothing more. You're taking time away from yourself, spending time at this job, because you could be doing so much to better yourself, but all you're doing is this garbage job that you don't care about, that you don't want, that you're not learning from, just to earn a little bit of money at the time. Let me explain to you why I think that this is true. If you're in a job that's just a basic entry-level job or that's not involved in the field that you want to be in, stuff like that's always going to be out there. Food services, stores, gas stations, all that. If you're working a job like that and you're providing for yourself, that's really important. But at the same time, if you're not getting value out of it, just walk away from it. Get something that will help you learn and develop, because those sort of jobs are always going to be there and they're always going to be needed, and other people can do them instead of yourself, because they don't have a lot of value to them other than just the paycheck. It's just low-level maintenance tasks for the business or the person you're working for and nothing else. Some jobs are going to allow you to develop a little bit and learn things. If you work in a store or for a sales company, something like that, these are going to be jobs that let you develop yourself. You're going to learn customer service. You're going to learn communication. You're going to learn sales. All that is going to contribute to your overall experience and education that you're going to be able to use for your betterment in the future whenever you get to where you want to be. If you're just working for whatever company and all you have to do in a day is go in and carry stuff around, you're not challenged at all, you don't have to ask questions, you don't have to learn anything, what's the point? All you're doing is making that person that runs that business, you're making their life easier and you're helping them, but you're not helping yourself. But if that's all you've got at the time, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not saying that you need to quit your job just because you have a job like that, but there's always something better out there. Everyone needs to provide for themselves, so you have taken the first step already, and that is huge. Some people won't even do that. It's way more than a lot of people are willing to do. There's some people that think they're above doing any job at all just because they went to school or something. You cannot be that kind of person. No one is above any sort of job. Yes, it would be ideal if you could have the job you wanted to or do a different job, but if this is all you've got at the time, keep doing it and just look for something better. I met someone in college that was a friend of a friend, and they didn't work at all, and I could never understand this. This person was in their mid-20s, they'd been out of college for a few years, they earned a degree, and they had not worked a single job. Not one, absolutely nothing. They had no experience, and they were getting shot down at everything they applied for because they were applying for high-level stuff. Like I said, you can't just walk into being a doctor. You can't walk into being a manager. But some people, because they have this education, small background from that education, if you don't have the work experience, people aren't going to hire you for these high-level jobs. That's too much of a risk for them, and they don't know if you're going to be able to do it, and chances are you won't because you don't have any experience doing that. But because this person decided that they were too good for these entry-level jobs to build up the experience to get to the higher-level jobs they wanted to, they did not work at all. For years, all they did was sit at home and not make a dime because they thought they were too good to work these common entry-level jobs anywhere. Even if you have to go out and work a hard labor job or anything in the meantime to contribute and do something, that's important. That's what you need to do, not only for yourself, but the people around you, so you're not just sitting there like a lump doing nothing. I just can't even begin to understand how or why a person would do this. All you've got to do is something. Just work anywhere. Do literally anything you can to contribute to yourself and the people around you. And this is where it comes back to my original point of working for your knowledge. You need to do something of value to yourself beyond the money that you're getting paid for that job. If it comes to a job that is not your ideal job, you need to do something that is good for yourself besides that paycheck. Find a job that you can learn something. Find a job that you can develop skills that you're going to keep with yourself that will better you in your career, in life, everything. Get something that's going to challenge you and branch out a little bit. It might not be something that you're going to work in forever, but you can take those skills with you forever everywhere you go. A lot of this I can prove by examples that I've done over time. I'm not going and saying that I've made the best choices and this is the way that everyone needs to do it. I had a reason behind all the choices I made, and I think it's good to go places like this because you never know when you might need to use this sort of experience. And even if it hasn't been related jobs to each other, having this experience and this background has helped me. I can't even tell you how many times. And finally, I'm going to be starting a real job in my field. I'm super excited for that, but leading up to this, all the development and all the things I've learned are going to help me forever. The first job I ever got in my life, I was 14 years old. I worked at a greenhouse down the road from my house. It was just a shady labor job working at this guy's greenhouse. I just planted flowers and carried stuff around and helped organize the place, but it was a job. I was earning something. I was earning a little bit of money. It wasn't that much. I was getting like $100 a pay or $200 a pay, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things. But when you're a 14-year-old kid, that's life-changing money. And I learned so much there. I learned about ways that things were done with inventory management and getting orders ready for flowers. I saw customer service when the older people around me and the owner were working with the customers. I saw logistical things, how this guy planned out the use of his facilities and his resources. It might not have made sense at the time, but looking back on it now, I understand some of the stuff that I saw and learned from it. In between semesters in college, I worked at a tire shop. I was like a mechanic's assistant, changed tires, I did oil changes. I helped them around the shop and just did pretty much anything that they needed me to do. And yeah, it sucked, but you know what? I learned how to change tires on wheels. I learned more. I had a little bit of an understanding on how to work on cars, but I learned all about doing mechanical work on the interior of cars, some electrical work on cars. I can't even tell you how many cars I changed oil on. And so many people, they don't know how to do stuff like this. So learning this sort of stuff that you can use in your everyday life outside of work is really valuable too. Another job I worked in between semesters in college, I worked at a huge construction company doing rebar fabrication. I helped to tie the rebar that goes under the concrete in big bridges that go over water and valleys and stuff like that. Am I ever going to work in a company like that again and tie rebar for these big bridges on construction projects? Absolutely not. I learned some about general construction, and when you're working on big, huge projects like that, when you're working with tons, literally tons and tons, thousands and thousands of pounds, 50, 60,000 pound units of metal, you have to work as a team. If you don't work as a team with all the people around you, there's no way you're going to be able to get that stuff done. And you can take stuff like that, the teamwork that you learn from jobs like this, and translate it into your everyday life. You can't always work by yourself. You need to be able to work with other people, cooperate with other people, and get stuff done. And if you can learn how to do this efficiently on huge projects like this and work safely, stuff like that, and then translate it into your everyday life and your career, that is going to help you out immensely. I talked about the job I took after college at that gym, and it just didn't really work out. I worked in concrete for a while. That was super valuable. By no means whatsoever am I a professional concrete worker. I'm not going to be able to finish concrete like a lot of people that work in construction all the time and do this sort of stuff, but I get a pretty decent idea on how to handle stuff. Whenever it comes time for me to get a house, I'm going to have a good general idea that I'm going to be able to do things myself, maybe save myself some money, and just get stuff done that a lot of people wouldn't know how to do otherwise. And then after I came home from deployment, I ended up moving away from my parents and away from where I've been forever in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I moved out to St. Mary's, Pennsylvania after Sierra and I got engaged. I worked for a landscaper. It was so hard to get a job because of all the virus stuff going on. So I found a job with a landscaper because you work away from people. You don't have to be in contact with people. So they were still in work. And yeah, that was, at the time, it was pretty much the only job that came across the table. But after I worked there for a while, I was asking questions. I was trying to figure stuff out. I was trying to do things on my own. And I learned so much about landscaping and property management. So also when it comes time for me to have my own house, I'm not going to need to hire anyone to do that. I just know how to do a lot of that stuff now. I'm going to be able to care for my own property and develop my own property and redo my landscaping and everything without calling people in. After I worked at the landscaper for a while, I just needed some more hours. I wasn't getting full time, so I moved on to a residential construction company. I worked for a contractor that was building houses from scratch. I learned more there than I could possibly have imagined. When I started there, that house was just a hole with the foundation cinder blocks in it. That was it. And then I worked there and we put up the walls in the house. I helped to put the roof on the house. I did a lot of the wiring in the house, concrete in the garages and everything. We started doing the drywall. And this is all stuff, once again, that's going to develop me and be able to be used in my personal life. Whenever I have a house, whenever I need to help people, I'm going to know how to do some of this stuff. So maybe it wasn't intentional at the time whenever I did it, but a lot of it was on purpose. And even if it wasn't intentional, I have learned so much throughout these jobs over time that I'm going to be able to use in my personal life. It's ridiculous. I'm going to understand these things about construction, home care, general maintenance, landscaping, how and why to do things around my house whenever I end up buying one. I've gotten to work on building a house, putting an addition on a different house. I helped with all the concrete. I learned all this about cars. It's stuff that's going to be valuable to me and can be applied directly to my life to make things easier. I'm going to be able to help myself, help other people around me, save myself money using this, and I'm going to be able to make money with this if I want to. I took what I learned from the landscaping job and I found my own side job for someone, and I went and made like 2 weeks worth of what I was making in 2 days doing this job by myself because I used what I got from work, from asking questions and paying attention, for my own good. There's so much value in learning things and understanding jobs that can be translated into your life beyond just what you're doing at work that people really take for granted and don't pay attention to and don't take the care for that I really think everyone should. If you find yourself in a position like this, working a job that might not be your ideal job, but there's benefit from it, you need to try and get that benefit beyond just that pay, like I was saying. You need to take the time to understand what you're doing and learn from it. Don't just do what you're doing at work because you're told to do it. You need to seek out the understanding of what you're doing. You need to ask questions beyond just how do I do it. You don't need to ask, how do I get this done? Go do it and just call it a day. You need to say, why are we doing this? What's the reasoning behind this? I want to know why. Why is this the right way to do this? Why wouldn't we do this the other way? What's the purpose of this? Why are we doing it one way rather than another? Is this more efficient than the other way? Is this safer than the other way? You can learn so much from the simplest job by just asking these little questions every day, and you're going to learn more than you ever thought you would understand about whatever you're doing. And even if it doesn't directly apply to the job you want to do eventually, just all the stuff that you're going to know and understand, you'd be surprised how some things may indirectly translate into the place you're trying to go. And this is what I'm saying by using your time properly and working for your knowledge. If you don't ask questions and try to get more takeaway from your work and learn from your work and the things you're spending hours and hours a week on, you're cheating yourself. You're saying that my time is only worth X amount of dollars per hour. If you're not asking questions and trying to get that knowledge that you can store away forever to benefit yourself, you're saying you have me for 40 hours a week and all I'm worth for that 40 hours is $12 an hour. I'm not seeking to gain your knowledge. I'm not seeking to understand. I don't want to know why. All my time is worth is $12 an hour, whatever you get paid for that job, and that's it. I don't care about anything else. And if the people you're working for are obviously successful and they're using these skills that you are trying to accomplish to make money, and they're probably doing well at it because they own the business and they have clients and they're busy, why would you pass up a chance to learn at what they're doing and something that someone is successful about, even if you're not going to do it? It might open your eyes to something that you didn't expect you could do before. Obviously, it's working for them and there's something to be learned there. Why would you not try to learn it? If you never intend on spending a career or even more time than a couple months in that field, ask questions, because you never know when it might pop up in your life. To have that knowledge is going to help you, or it might be beneficial to know stuff like that. Just gain everything you can professionally, and you're going to develop yourself into the best possible worker, best person, best student you could ever be. Just don't waste your time. Information and skills are more valuable than money will ever be, because you can use information and knowledge and skills to continually grow yourself and gain more money. It helps to have money, to make money, but you can't just throw money, like take a wad of money in your hands and physically whale it at something and have that produce you more money. You have to put that money into people that have skills, people that have knowledge, people that have experience to turn that money into more money. So if you don't have those skills yourself, what's the point? I know this one was kind of ranty, and it was just me going off a little bit more than the ones before. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I just wanted to get it out there. So to bring it all together, look at what you're doing and the value of what you're getting out of it. If it's just money, I think you're going the wrong direction and you're wasting your time. If you're learning from it, you're doing good, you're doing the right thing. Always try to get more out of it than just the paycheck. Don't be afraid to work for learning. Even if it's a garbage job and it sucks, you never know when you might need that knowledge, or it might apply in a different direction or translate into the career you're trying to get into. Absolutely no one is above doing any job. If you think you are above doing something because you're too educated or too good, you're a bum. No one's going to want you to work for them because you're not willing to do the little stuff that needs done. Just try to get all the value and skills you can out of what you're doing. There's more surface value than you understand at the time. Ask the questions, go the extra mile, get everything you can out of it. Especially if you're in a valuable job that has customer service or sales. Those are huge, huge, huge things. Even leadership, teamwork, they are huge things that employers look for. And if you can get this from just a low-end small job to contribute to your overall knowledge and education, that is going to help you in the long run. Constantly ask questions. You want to understand why the person you're working for is doing the things that they're doing. You want to understand the point behind it, the why they're doing it, why it's working, how it's working, why we're not doing other things. Just ask questions and take as much away from it as you possibly can. If you're not learning, you're not earning. You're cheating yourself and being trapped into that paycheck and nothing else. There are a million other ways you could go out there and earn that money. Why not earn some knowledge at the same time? Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and like it, share it with anyone that you think might be interested in this or need to hear this. Contact me directly with questions, feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to hear, any suggestions, anything else like that at all. You can find my personal account on Instagram at TheOnlyHoff. The official Head First Project page on Instagram is at HeadFirstProject, or you can email the Head First Project at headfirstproject@gmail.com. If you have any interest on coming onto the show and talking about something with me, please reach out. I'm very open to having guests on the show. We might not be able to do it in person, but we're going to figure out a way to do it electronically over a conference call, and we'll get your audio on here and talk about stuff. As of right now, I have 3 people that I have begun to talk to, and I'm planning on bringing them on, and I'm really excited to be able to do that. So if anyone else is interested in that, please reach out and let me know. Look out for the next episode of Saturday Stew coming this weekend. We are going to be talking about eating to gain weight. Thank you all so much once again, and remember, always attack life head first.